that when you're in care and you're a child growing up in care, you mightn't have that like authority figure constantly out throughout your life. Who do they turn to? Like if you're in care, you're not in care because you've the mad that you can turn to a dad to turn to. Your circumstances are different. Do you know what I mean? So there's no support there, and for anyone to turn to that's leaving care, and that's how the addiction and then no jobs and all comes into play, because you actually don't know what to do, what path to take in life, because you're not being guided in the right way. So, and even down to little things like trying to get a new doctor or trying to get a credit union, they always look for a fixed address, and this comes into play with the homeless as well. Most homeless people obviously haven't got a fixed address that they can turn to, so they can't, for example, open a bank account without a letter of proof of address. They can't get a new doctor, they can't do anything, open a credit union. So how does anyone expect people to better themselves when they're constantly being discriminated against by everyone? With addiction is very close to my heart, like, because I've seen it struggling. I've seen a lot of people struggling that will be close to me, do you know what I mean? But no addict decides to wake up one morning and say, right, I'm going out today and I'm going to be strung out on drugs. Nobody wants that, do you know what I mean? Everyone is suffering with their own demons in their own head, and I think that sometimes in life your worst enemy can be our own brain. But there's no support. Like, if, for example, if you're walking down the street and you see some homeless person maybe asking for spare change, some people just look down their nose and say, oh no, that's not right, that's for drugs. That's not right at all. There's a man actually at the minute on O'Connell Bridge, and his stories after only coming out recently, he's there ages. But basically what happened was his daughter died, his wife became an alcoholic to deal with this, and then she wasn't paying off the mortgage bills. She died of the alcoholism, and now he's left on the street. Do you know what I mean? Because he has no house. But he's been discriminated against constantly by people walking across that bridge, looking at him, asking for money, but nobody knows what's after happening in his life. Nobody knows his story, do you know what I mean? He wasn't after getting himself on drugs. He just had a different circumstances altogether, but people presume because he's on the street that he's on drugs. And even if he is on drugs, where's the help for him? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's disgraceful, to be honest, in my eyes, that our own people are constantly looking down on our own people, because we're all equal, do you know what I mean? Like, nobody's better than anyone, and just, I think something as little as saying, how are you today? Acknowledging that person, not walking by the person looking down your nose, saying, how are you? Sitting there for 5 minutes talking to that person, I'm not joking, it makes their day. The likes you're growing up and you're in aftercare, you're 13, 14, 15, they're the years your mother, your father, whoever's at home, your grandparents will be teaching you how to cook, how to wash your clothes, how to dress yourself, how to save money, and how to basically live your life for the rest of your life. But when you're in care and you're being constantly moved around, there's nobody keeping track of that. So you're not learning your life skills, you're not learning how to value money or save money, and then you're at 18 years of age, you're just out. So the way I think you could help that situation would be, when someone comes into care, they're obviously struggling with trust from the get-go, because they're after being tore away from their family, what they're comfortable with, they don't want to be in care. So I think if they had one stable person, for example the social worker, and that social worker follows them throughout their care system and doesn't keep swapping and changing, because if it's out of their hands whether their houses have to change, that's not what they can deal with. But the social worker could say the same, so that maybe that child could feel that they have one person to turn to, and that person is actually there to listen to them, and then that social worker could follow that child's growth throughout their life, to realise, to make sure that they know how to do their washing, know how to save, know how to cook for when they do turn 18, even if the housing crisis is still the same, because we've no control over that at the minute, that they still know how to help better themselves and help themselves, the resources they can go to, the places they can go to get the help and the supports that are offered to them, or even point them in the right path. When you haven't got your parents there, your family, you need someone to do it. Do you know what I mean? So maybe if a social worker was just a bit more consistent and one person stuck, it might just help that person a bit more later in life. I myself personally would have struggled with trust all my life. I wouldn't have trusted anyone, but in my experience, if that little thing had been changed when I was younger and that one consistent person was there, I do reckon that would have helped me a lot, do you know, just to point me in the right direction. I always just believe what you put into a child when they're younger is what you're going to get out of the child when they're older. That's what I live by, do you know what I mean? So we done a talk there a few weeks ago to social worker students in Trinity College, all about and trying to bring in the Act for the socio-economic discrimination, and I found this very important, especially as a care leaver myself, to kind of give the students in Trinity an insight of what the child is feeling, not what the books are telling them we're feeling, or not what they should be doing. I just felt it's very important for them to hear what I went through, because when they're bringing that onto their future career, and I mentioned that in the Trinity College about the trust issues and all, and a lot of the students after the class and after the lecture that we'd done came back up to me and said that they're definitely going to bring that a lot further in their career. And I think that just hearing from someone in care will give them a broader outlook on the care system than what they're hearing from their colleagues, because their colleagues haven't, I'm not saying they haven't, but the majority of them wouldn't have lived through the care life, do you know what I mean? So I think it's very important to hear from someone's point of view that's been through it and lived it, do you know what I mean? So they can bring that in and hopefully help someone in the future that's in care and that's struggling, you know, because it's very important to have that one person, and as I said, and then people that we're down in Trinity could be that one person that their child trusts. You have to realise, like, when I'm not being funny, I'm grateful I'm here, but I did not ask to be born, nobody asked to be born, do you know what I mean? And when you are born into an unstable family, that's not the child's fault, that's not anyone's fault, do you know what I mean? So I think there should be a member of authority to come in, obviously not like the social services, nothing like that, but just to make sure that your actually personal human needs are being met. You're growing, like you're learning, because you learn the most when you're a baby and when you're in the teenage years, your adolescent years, and your brain is like a sponge. But when you're in care and you're not being taught anything, how does anyone expect people to live throughout life and not to be in the revolving door of prison, or not to be homeless, or not to be on drugs, to take the easy route out? Because we don't know the right way unless someone teaches it to you. Do you know? If you were to try, even if you had no education, and you were to try better yourself by going back to education as an a mature student, that when you go into that college automatically expects you to be able to do this, this and this. But people like colleges don't take into consideration the lifestyle someone may have lived from when they were younger, that they genuinely haven't got that knowledge of school or education, and that's not looked at at all either, do you know what I mean? And it's not because I don't want to do it, it's because maybe we weren't given the opportunity in life to sit our exams and do this and learn all this, because our lives are so chaotic, do you know what I mean? So there should be a system in place in the schools that are for these type of situations, do you know what I mean, that will just give you an extra bit of help or an extra hand or whatever if you need it. So, listen, we're no different in that. Like, I don't see why I should be discriminated against for the fact that my mother weren't in the position to have me, do you know what I mean? But all my life growing up, I was discriminated against for that fact, even without people realising they were doing it, do you know what I mean? And that needs to stop, because, like, I'm trying to better myself, but even throughout life, when you're trying to go forward in life, it always comes back to that, man. So it's very important just to bring awareness to it and try to help it stop, for not me, but for other people growing up in care that's going to be going through the care system, to help them, make it a little bit easier for them.